This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, this is John Bailey, and this is White Plains Week, the City News Roundup show, and we're heading into St. Patrick's Day weekend, and this was the scene last weekend in White Plains at the White Plains Parade. Let's take a look, listen to the great music, and right now we are looking forward to a St. Patrick's Day weekend, and it was a great parade. The footage was shot by the White Plains television crew, and it's always a very happy weekend. And this weekend, you get to celebrate it again, right, James?
The Westchester Firefighters, Emerald Society Pipes and Drums.
Yes, how about that? Thank you. And Jim, you have the headlines.
Yes, and here are the headlines for the week of March 15th. The Ides of March. White Plains school budget is in. The preliminary budget delivers a 3.5% tax increase at this time. Will there be a march of apartments down White Plains Platinum Mile on Westchester Avenue? Robert Weitz of RPW Group believes there will be. White Plains school enrollments through 2029 do not allow for new students coming from 6,000 new apartments planned for White Plains. Governor Cuomo vows he will not sign a New York State budget without a permanent 2% tax cap. Bail reform stalled as legislator considers ramifications. Biotech gold mine in Westchester is waiting to happen. County Executive George Latimer announces State of the County address for April 7th. White Plains School Board elections will accept petitions to run for the board up until May 1st. For the Board of Education election, May 21st. The same date as the school budget.
Thank you, Jim. And we might mention that if you're planning to run for the Board of Education, you just need 100 signatures to get on the ballot. And meanwhile, it's time to go to the White Plains Week Video Newsreel March of Time. And the big deal here is that taxpayers in White Plains are being faced with a 3.5% increase in their school tax rate. And White Plains Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph Ricca, detailed a $226.3 million budget. Can we have the slide, please? Show the budget in detail. And it is a 3.4% increase from the $218.6 million budget this year. The higher budget from the $225 million previously estimated in January, it was due to properties coming off pilots. And according to Assistant Superintendent for Business Ann Vaccaro Teisch, the 3.4% increase in the budget results in a 3.5% increase in the tax rate of $28. An increase of $28, raising the tax rate from $644 to $672 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. So, is that fair, James?
Well, I don't know whether it's fair or not. I'd like to pay no taxes.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But
Yes, well, the $28 increase, that means that the median priced home in White Plains, $650,000, that's the median, will pay $462 more in school taxes, $11,082 compared to $10,620 this year. Plus, if you get the basic exemption, you know, it goes a little lower. But the basic exemption is deducted from both city and school taxes. It's an interesting point. Now, what was truly interesting this week is Governor Cuomo announced something really intriguing. He said that in no way was he going to sign the New York State budget unless there was unless the 2% tax cap was made permanent. And he said, this hand will not sign it. You know, I thought that was really terrific. Everybody saw that video, I'm sure, if you were watching the local news. But what intrigues me most is that this truly affects the school district quite a bit. They showed a slide Monday night when they presented the budget that showed that the governor's executive budget provided an increase of 0.48%, or $65,946. That's very little aid. The executive budget also proposes the consolidation of multiple expense-based aids, which would make it much more difficult for school districts to get their fair share of aid. And there is a building aid adjustment. The executive budget proposes decreasing the building and reimbursement ratio from 10% to 5%. Now, most significant, in my opinion, James, is that the budget has put out a prediction of enrollment rates, and let's look at it right here. The enrollment rates go all the way out to 2029. However, the superintendent of schools, Dr. Ricca, said that that does not allow for any increase in enrollment coming from the 5,000 or 6,000 new apartments. And he said that twice. This really stunned me.
Well, depending upon the breakdown of the apartments, and most, from what I understand so far, most are 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to get necessarily a lot of school-age children out of that. You're going to get mostly people with new babies and things like that. And I would say kids probably, I'm guessing,
It'll spread out.
Under the age of 5 are those going to be living there. It's on, well, they could have an increase. I don't think there would
But you don't think
necessarily
it
be a
would be
substantial
super
increase.
impactful?
What?
What do you think? Would it be about 10% based on total number of apartments? 10% increase in children? Any experience in that one?
I don't have any experience in it, but who will be, if you were building new homes, new houses,
Yeah.
single-family homes, then I would say it'd be a different story. But you know, I don't know. You know, I'd have to
It's
look
an
at the
unknown quantity.
yeah.
And that is something that we have to bear in mind going forward as these apartments try and build themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Now, the budget also introduces a new capital reserve fund of $25,000 to pay for continued maintenance of the district's aging buildings. And they also want to establish that reserve in a proposition in the May 21st school district budget vote. And the vote on May 21st will also have a proposition to expend $6.4 million out of the existing capital reserve fund to cover infrastructure renovations at Highland School and the high school. And there were no cuts made to the original budget submitted a month ago. He said that Dr. Ricca said the state would receive $65,000 in state aid this year an increase of 0.5%. So it'll be interesting what the final budget will be. Now, next up, we have an intriguing meeting took place Monday night, Tuesday at the Council of Neighborhood Associations. Robert Weish of RPW Group addressed the Council of Neighborhood Associations on his development, the flats proposed for 1133 Westchester Avenue. And James, he really delivered a great presentation, and the intriguing thing about it is he just really soothed a lot of the opposition. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The elevation is approximately 60 feet lower where the building sits than from where the houses are. The houses are, we are on the bottom of a cliff. So when we put up this building, the roof of the building is going to be at the same elevation that their ground, and by the way, 600 feet away. So the visual impact is almost non-existent. One of the concerns they have is that we have paths that we want to use for people to exercise, etc., and they go through their neighborhood. We are going to connect to a path that is next door to us in another office building. We are not going to connect to the path in the back. So we are not going to have people walking towards the residential neighborhood. So there's going to be no strangers, which is a very fair concern. If you have a house, you have children, you don't want somebody, could be running or jogging or whatever, or looking to do something else. So that from that point of view, we can accommodate the desire of the city to have paths that are interconnected, but through the commercial properties, not through the local neighborhood.
And at the end of the meeting, Mr. Weish also commented on what this zoning means for White Plains in the future along the Platinum Mile. See what you think of it.
Zoning that has been created to allow this is not available in most places. I'll give you an example. One side of 287 is White Plains. The other side of 287 is Harrison. Harrison, and I'm just giving you facts, I'm not judging what's right or what's wrong. In the Harrison side, we have Wegman, we have Lifetime Fitness. Those properties have neighbors just like a lot of people in this room that live behind those buildings. Same situation. Those were office parks that became now retail projects. In the White Plains side, the city had the wisdom of saying, what is what we really need? We know we have a crisis in the office market. Companies are not coming like they used to come. As a matter of fact, a lot of companies are leaving. So what can we do to generate the revenue and at the same time have a positive impact in the economy? So the zoning that was created does a lot of things.
It was like 12 years ago, right?
12 years ago, exactly. And so no, you were definitely part of it. This was during your tenure.
Yeah, when I started.
So, frankly, we had a hotel approved for this site before the zoning was created. So instead of this, we're going to build a hotel. And we were not crazy about the hotel. The hotel, we are not really, we were not comfortable. Well, we couldn't build a residential building because it was not allowed back then. So now with the new zoning, we can do residential buildings. And what this will do, first of all, we are going to invest a number of millions of dollars to build this. It's going to create a lot of employment. Forget about construction time. In construction time, it's going to be hundreds of jobs. Once those jobs are, when the jobs are completed, it's going to continue to create jobs for not only the people that work on the site, but everybody's going to live here. They need to go to the dry cleaners, to the supermarket. So those are indirect jobs that are being created. That's happening all at the same time. And we are generating taxes, real estate taxes, where now there is practically no tax.
Right.
It's only the tax for the empty land. So it has a lot of different implications. It happens to be an area that it has very small impact on the residential part of the city. I understand that some neighbors don't want to have any impact, and I understand that, that's human nature, but if you look at the overall picture, we can build 300 apartments, and we are blocked by an office building that is pretty much going to shelter everybody that lives behind it. They're not going to see a damn thing changing. It's going to be exactly the same thing that it is now. You have a building now, it's going to be the same building after the fact. So the combination of all this it's a very, very positive impact overall. And the final impact is the fact that the biggest complaint we have from corporations is that they can't hire younger people because they can't live in this part of the world. So they need to go someplace else because younger people are not coming. So the ability to have this, we will not have only younger people, but the ability to offer apartments at a reasonable rate of good quality space offers employment to the companies that are looking for those employees. So the impact is in many, many different areas, and I think that the concept, this is not something that you can build anywhere. You need the zoning. We're not asking for any changes. We're not asking for the variance. We are not asking for the change of zone. We are building this as of right. If I had to ask for all those things, I wouldn't be here. This is, we have life that is complicated enough. We don't need more headaches. So the fact that the city of White Plains had the vision to do this is what allowed us to come here, and that's what we are not in any other town.
Sound good?
Yeah. Well, Robert White's is a very, I guess I would say, impressive individual.
Isn't he, though?
You know, he's really a class act.
Yes.
And, you know, he makes sense.
Yes, in fact, the crowd was pretty raucous as the meeting started Tuesday night, but he, with his laid-back, very reasonable approach, he was totally unruffled by some of the questions that were immediately thrown out at him. And in fact, the meeting had to be quieted down by the president, and then he continued, and he basically diffused what I thought was hostility, and with people that had raised issues, had them answered. And that is a lesson. When you are trying to sell a concept, you have to embrace people's comments and point out how the project, you know, you give benefits, and that's what he did. And he is an excellent presenter, and he always presents his own projects. You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't need a person who is simply representing him, but he believes in it, and it came through. And it looks as if this will be approved because the neighborhoods appeared to really buy what he was saying. Whether or not we can get more apartments built on those office platforms. Now, I went strolling in downtown White Plains, USA yesterday, Jim, and I looked at the apartment projects that are planned to be built in the downtown west of the Platinum Mile. There is only one project shown here that is in the process of being built, and that is this one at the corner of East Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenue. That fence there shows that all the stores that used to be there, Allstate, Supercuts, Executive Billiards, among others, are all gone, and it awaits starting the buildings to the 400 and so apartments. So that seems to be coming along. But there are 11 projects that are stalled after years since approval. And here they are, the White Plains Mall, the Galleria promise of improved Main Street access, the Metro North city-owned parcels at the railroad station, the second 55 Bank Street building, the Ginsburg City Square building, said to be starting, the White Plains Y future, the Westmoreland Avenue apartments and brewery over where you have your offices. Any activity there?
I haven't seen any activity there.
Exactly.
And I don't know how the new building is doing.
And the venue on Bloomingdale Road and the Westchester Avenue residences across from the Westchester, we're not hearing anything about them either. There's the Esplanade Apartments still stalled out, and 60 South Broadway are not started, although 60 South Broadway has finally gotten their site plan revised, approved, so we expect to see steam shovels shortly. Let's hope. Now, at this rate, you think the White Plains millennial boom is behind schedule?
There's an awful lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
I think that the Lennar, I believe it's Lennar that's building what used to be the pavilion.
Yeah.
I think that's behind schedule. It has been for a while. That was supposed to have started, but it appears that they're going to start now. I am surprised. I think that the corner of Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenue, I did not expect that to start for a while, and it's...
They've jumped on it,
yeah.
And let's hope it continues, because that is a major piece.
Well, what's interesting, there's the first apartment house that is going to build. They're going to build some bigger apartments there. Some 3-bedroom apartments, and I don't know if they're any bigger than that, but I think that's a demand that's not being covered. If you built a lot of those, then you would probably increase the school population. But I think that there's a demand for empty nesters to get bigger apartments. I mean, if I were to move out of my house, I would need at least a 3 or 4 bedroom. Not.
You need space.
I need
all those
space.
books.
Yes.
Right, exactly. And Jim, you develop real estate projects. Do you get approvals with financial backing, or do you get a partner, or do you get approvals then go for financial backing? Is this a delay?
That's not a great question to ask me, because most of what we buy is investment real estate. In other words, it's stuff that's already built. We have not been developing anything new.
But what has been your experience in noticing what other developers do? Is this delay that we're experiencing in White Plains, and it is a delay, due to mainly retailer doubts, over optimism by the developers, market skepticism as to whether the apartments will fill up?
Well, I think that there might be some concern as to what the market can absorb, the number of apartments. But, I don't know how existing, like, they've got the project on Westmoreland Avenue, and I forget how many apartments that is. And I thought those apartments were a nice size. I don't know how it compares to the rents they're charging. The Elcor project that was that Capelli built, it's not his project, but he was the builder. I don't know how they're
that's
doing.
one of the ones that he was going to start that second tower. Hasn't begun yet, but hopefully that will be starting up soon. That would balance the two areas. You got Mamaroneck Avenue one that's going up shortly, and then that would be a good 1-2 punch. Now, coming up on April 7th is the Westchester County Executive George Latimer's State of the County address. What kind of the state is the county in your opinion? There's a tough question.
And my answer is,
Is?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Well, Mr. Latimer has had a year to get comfortable in the job. And how is he doing, as Mayor Koch used to say? Right.
I think he's doing okay. Is he doing super great? Probably not. But I think he's got things on a reasonable track. We'll have to see what happens over the years.
Well, he's got 3 more to go.
Yeah.
Perhaps for life, actually, at the rate the county is going now from well, I'll tell you this. He takes his time to make decisions. He involves the public that are often unfamiliar with the realities of the long-term consequences of their preconceived notions and desires. He has negotiated labor agreements that have been way beyond the inflation rate, resulting in his having to raise property taxes, and he decided to ask for a 1% sales tax increase to pay for it all, which the state legislature has to approve. He is reluctant to make decisions on playland, even though he has a vendor, Standard Amusements, on the hook. We don't even know where that is. In fact, he's also, today, while we were taping the show, he's holding a news conference to announce an agreement with the Children's Museum to make even more construction down there to expand their space. As to the airport, he is reluctant to shape the airport future. There is no master plan even close to being ready. He is raising sales tax 1% to balance the budget now, when he could have done that a year ago, in the last spring. And now the governor is hopping mad at the state Senate for its refusal to support the Amazon deal. And Mr. Latimer, instead of asking for the sales tax increase last spring when it was possible with urgency, asked for it now. And as a result of the delay in not following the advice of his own auditors last spring, he has perhaps a problem getting a governor to go with that 1% sales tax increase. Cuomo has not forgotten the Amazon thing. Not at all. Delaying a decision means you are actually making a decision not to do something. He has to make a decision in this job. He has supported a number of feel-good pieces of legislation which have no teeth to enforce them. So he has 3 years to go, and maybe he will move on with speed and alacrity. And right now, though, let's take a look and celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And there we go. And that is the parade from last Saturday in White Plains, New York, USA. And we hope everybody has a safe St. Patrick's Day over the weekend. And good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.